What's going on, trader? And welcome back to another YouTube video as well as my YouTube channel. It's your boy here, the Forex Amateur, and it's going to be our first Saturday morning video. I don't think we've done a Saturday morning video previously, but this is a new series that I'm going to be trialing, and let's see what sort of reaction and what sort of traction we get on the series. All right. So as you'd most likely be able to see on the title of the video, this is basically our aftermarket session. The purpose of this video or this video series is going to be to look back on all of the moves that we've spoken about throughout the week. Firstly, on the Monday session that we do have, which is our weekly outlook, the Wednesday morning video that we will most likely have going forward, even though I've done it on a Thursday this week. And then we'll have that conversation on a Saturday morning regarding all of those moves that we spoke about. How did it play out? What were the learning opportunities in those moves? If anything disagreed with the analysis or with the way we expected it to happen, what was the actions that we took as a result of that, and what was the takeaways from that? So hopefully with this series, you'll be able to learn a lot more in terms of how I navigate my learning opportunities for the week, as well as how I navigate winning trades and stuff like that, or how I navigate a down week, or how I navigate an up week, you know? So this might be something that you'll be able to learn a lot from as well. Before we get into the video, remember, I'm not licensed or qualified to offer financial or investment advice. Everything I speak about on these videos is purely my own opinion. It's based on my own trades with cash that I am willing to risk. I do not recommend live trading in any sort of way. If you do, however, trade live funds, ensure you do it with capital you are willing to lose, as well as you do your own research so that you are well equipped to do so, right? So let's get straight into it right now. On this video, like I said, we're simply going to talk about what we've spoken about throughout the week, how has it played out, and what is our takeaways from there. Now, earlier in the week, we did speak about the fact that we are in a bearish market on dollar index, right? So on dollar index, due to the structure break in here, forming a lower high, lower low, after breaking this low, another lower low. So we've got this three-hit structure here, which is sort of like a reversal. And I did mention that we look for a breakout and we look to take this market higher, as I have been bullish on this market. Now, looking at that very closely, let me just actually zoom in here so you can see what I spoke about on Thursday, I believe it was. Right, so let's just do that. Let's grab that pen. So on Thursday, we did speak about the fact that, okay, this was the last breaking structure, the last lower high that formed this lower low in here, right? We can see price came back in, failed to break structure, came back in, did a false breakout, failed to break structure, and now it's broken structure to the upside. So we did speak about the fact that this was a structure break to the upside at this point. And I did mention that we would look for a pullback, and then we'd look to take this market higher with our targets at around that area. And if we do see a break and push up, we look at taking that market higher from there. As you can see, that actually played out very well. Now, what was my reason for believing that this would happen? Because I was looking at the fact that we've got this three-hit structure to the downside in here. Generally, after I see something like this, I would expect a structure break, right? I would expect to see this market break the most recent high that created a new low. That is very important, right? So just looking at that, I was able to anticipate the fact that I will see this market revisit this level. That is the reason why I was able to anticipate, okay, we did see a break of structure here. I was able to anticipate that this was not going to be a what we call a liquidity grab or a false breakout. This was not going to be that. This was essentially a valid break of structure, all because of the fact that we pulled back and formed a lower high in this area, but failed to form a lower low from there. So that showed me a depletion of momentum. So that was pretty straightforward in the fact that we will most likely see this market make new highs. So let's drop to the H4, and we did speak about a specific level on this H4 as well, and I want to bring your attention to that as well. So on the 4-hour chart, we did speak about the fact that I did see that this was, I believe this was the exact level that I had drawn on the chart here. This was the exact level, and I believe that price was around this area here, right? So this was the exact level right here where I was looking to see this market come back to, and I was then anticipating what? That we'll see a push up into this level in here. And as you can see, we did have that play out very, very nicely. Now, what was my reason for saying something like that as well? Now, looking at this, we did highlight the fact that what? We had a break of structure here. On the higher time frame, we cannot see this as a break of structure because we do not have a candle close above this level. However, on here, we can see it as a break of structure. Not only did we have a break of structure here, when on the pullback, we can see price respecting this previous low. So that tells me what? That this break of structure is valid, because as I've spoken about in the educational videos on the channel, when I spoke about market structure, you can go back and have a look and see what I do determine as a valid break of structure. So looking at this, I was able to identify, okay, this was a valid break of structure. Hence, I then marked up this as well as the next break of structure in here. And then I would anticipate, if I came to this market, right? Let's just go back for a second. So if I was to come to this market and this market was like this, either which way, based, apologies for that, based on the fact that we've had a break of structure here, and based on the fact that we've had another break of structure of this previous high created here, I would have been looking for this market to come back down towards somewhere in here, and I would have been looking for a buy from around there. So hence, I was not surprised that actually happened, because that would have been part of my trade anyway. And as you can see, the market came right back down into this level that I marked up here, and it bounced right in there and it went higher, right? So looking at that, this would have been the area that I would have been looking for a pullback into anyway, right? Into there, and then I would have been looking to take a buy from here with a nice tight stop loss, and I would have been looking to target up in here. So that is basically what's actually happened. Now, looking at this market, as you can see, what do we have now? We will wait to see what happens going forward in terms of, will price pull back and go back and break this. Once this level is broken, right, we then can also still look for pullbacks if it does happen, and look for this market to keep going higher, right? Remember, I did say that my overall target on this market would be somewhere at around there, and then I'll look to hold it for as long as possible. So that's very simple, very straightforward. That was the first call that we spoke about this week, and that actually played out really, really nicely. Moving on from there, I'm not really going to calculate profitability and PIP numbers and all of that stuff. You can go back and you can calculate the PIP numbers if you would actually like to look at that, right? Now, let's move on to Euro USD. Euro USD, we spoke about downside on Euro USD, right? One of the things that we need to consider is the fact that Euro USD has a very strong correlation to dollar index. So when I have a strong analysis on dollar index telling me that the market is going to go to the upside, I already come to the Euro USD chart with an assumption that this market is most likely going to go lower, right? It's not an expectation, it is an assumption. I would still come and analyze this chart and see exactly what happens as a result from that. So looking at the weekly chart in here, I did mention all my reasons as to why I was looking for downside on here on the weekly. So I'm not necessarily going to get back into that. Let's just go straight to the daily. And on the daily chart, we had marked up this range in here. Right, we had, oh wow, we had marked up this high to this low, and I did mention that I would actually see the market come back into this low and then give us something and perhaps push back to the upside. But overall, for this week, we would have been looking for a sell down into this low. And as you can see, that actually played out really, really well as well. So we're going to drop down. Okay, before we do that, let's stick on here a little bit. I was anticipating that this level would be the level where we would see a false breakout or a liquidity grab for this market to go lower, right? I had already anticipated that. Why was that? This is the level in here, right, that I was expecting to be liquidity, to have the liquidity grab to have a liquidity grab, right? And we do see that happened in there. I was actually considering, the reason I just fumbled, I was actually considering explaining my thought process behind that, but I'll actually keep that out of this, as that is mentorship content, right? So looking at here, I was not surprised then when the market came and did a liquidity grab, because I was already expecting that to happen. And this is something that we are able to anticipate in advance, and thus we are able to get much better opportunities, right? Let's just do this. Cool. So looking at here, we were also looking at this for downside, right? I believe that when we looked at this chart last, and I stand to be corrected, I believe that this market was here, and that was on Thursday, right? And even on Thursday, I did speak about the fact that that we had this push up into here, we had this false breakout, and we had this break to the downside, which I would consider a break of market structure. So what did I say? We were looking for a pullback into here, and we were looking to take this market lower from around that point. Simply looking at this market, we can already see the fact that I already came into this chart expecting the market to go lower from around here. When we drop down to the H4 chart, what can we see on the H4 chart coming off that daily high? We can see that this was the low. Oh, wow. We can see that this was the low that created all those new highs, right? So when this market broke down below here, it's telling me that we are now in a bearish market. We see this pull back into here. We see this false breakout to the upside. We see this push down, a break of market structure. In this instance, I would simply be looking for a pullback into there and look to take this market back down into here. So going forward, we have not been surprised by that. Going forward, what can we see? We can see we've broken structure here. We've broken structure here. So we're now in a continued bearish market, and we should expect this market to reach back into there. Very simple, very straightforward. We try to keep it as simple as possible, and that way you are able to identify your moves and keep going. You do not get lost in the lower time frame moves, and you understand the fact that where you're sitting in your higher time frame range, and you're able to take trades in that direction. Let's move on to the synthetic indices, and I believe we will be done with this video. Hopefully you're able to gather a lot of information from this video. Just let me know in the comments below if there's anything you've been able to take away from this, and if there's anything you'd like for me to speak to in detail in the future. Now, looking at volatility 100, we were looking at this as our daily high. We had our daily low here. Why was this our daily low? Because this was the last push that broke market structure here. So that was a bullish range. We know that in a bullish range, what are we looking for? A pullback to take buyers back to the upside. Now, when I spoke about this, I did mention that I'm looking for something in around this area here where we will see some sort of a minor bullish bounce, and then we'll look for something again, perhaps to the upside or something. But for now, just because it's all we spoke about, I was looking for a buy from around this area in here. I believe this was the area that I marked up, right? But obviously the market came slightly lower because we've got this broken structure in here, and we can see that that is now pushing to the upside. Now, what would make me want to look for buys at that area? Obviously, on the weekly, we're looking at strong downside, right? But what I am looking at is the fact that this was the first candle that rejected off here, right? And this was the second candle, or the retest, right? The retest candle that pulled back into this range that broke structure. So looking at this, I was expecting this candle to close with a rejection at the bottom, the next candle to come up and leave a wick on the upside, and then trade down and give us a body to the downside. So that is why I'm expecting a buy on there. And it's a minor pullback. I'm not looking to take it very far, right? If it would want to, we can take it back up into that high. However, I would be happy at looking at something inside of here as a take profit for those buys, right? Let's look down on the 4-hour chart, and let's have a look see at what we've seen on here. Now, on the 4-hour, we haven't seen a very strong bullish bounce off here yet, right? And we'll just wait for this market to accumulate here and give us whatever it wants to, and then we'll be looking to take that to the upside from around here. Now, for this specific one here, it hasn't played out as strongly as we would expect it to, but it is currently in the process of currently playing out. So I would still be expecting this to give us some sort of upside from there. So not necessarily an analysis that has gone bad, it's just an analysis that has not played out yet. I believe I did actually come here on the 4-hour, and I showed you guys that this break from here, what was it? I can't recall. Oh wow, okay. From here down to there, right? And we did mark this yellow point here as our pivot point. And as you can see, price has basically been reacting to this. I did say that this was the level I was looking for buys. Just go back and watch that video, and you'll be able to see the levels that we spoke about on there. Let's move on to volatility 10. Looking at volatility 10, I have been speaking about sustained downside back into this level in here, but I believe the level that I had marked on here was here, right? So we were looking at it coming back into that level on volatility 10. As you can see, that actually played out really, really well. And as I did say, I was simply looking to see the market come back into that level. Why? Because that was the last level that broke structure to the upside, right? So I'm expecting a false breakout below here, and then I'm looking to take this market back up into around there or into the previous high. Now, what did we take away from here? When we look at the 4-hour chart, we can see that on the 4-hour as well, we had a very strong analysis of a break of structure and a break of structure again in here. So we had, I think we were around here when we spoke about this market last, and we were expecting it to continue lower from around that point. What is exactly happening on here? We're still in a bullish range if you look at it on the daily chart, right? Why? Because we've broken the structure to the upside. Yes, we've got now a candle close to the downside, so we can consider the same market structure break to the downside, but not lose sight of the fact that this is going to be a false breakout. It's going to turn out to be a false breakout, and then this market is then going to pull back higher, back into around this area in here, right? And once it pulls back from there, then it's going to continue lower back down into there, right? So looking at that very simply on the 4-hour chart, we were able to identify our ranges very easily, simply looking at the breaks of structure. So once this first structure was broken in here, we were able to start looking for sales from there. Once the second structure broke here, we had a much stronger confluence of the fact that this market will go lower. And as you can see, that is one of the reasons why I had marked that daily low as an area where the market would come back to. That has actually played out very, very nicely. So if you were able to take advantage of that, very well done on that. Looking at the weekly chart on volatility 75, we had this structure break here, we had this demand zone, and we did say that the market is most likely going to reach back into these highs again. Looking down to the daily chart, we did have this level here marked as a level that the market would be coming back into, and then looking for something to the downside. Obviously, that hasn't happened, but we can see that we still have a range that we can still work the downside from. So I'll be looking to see if we get this coming back and closing back into this range here, then I'll still be looking for sales back to the downside from there. But for now, we're still in a very strong bullish market, so we should continue looking for those buys to the upside because we've got this break of market structure in here. So very simple, very straightforward. What is the takeaways that we look to do, that we look at on a weekly basis? One of the most important things that I like to focus on is whenever the opportunity arises in terms of my strategy on a chart, I look to take that trade, whether it's on a live account, whether it's on a demo account, or whatever it is. An actionable thing has to be done on the back of the analysis, so that you know that you've done the post-market analysis, you've taken the trade, and you're able to either learn or profit from that move, right? That's one of the things. The second thing is that we try to keep it as simple as possible. You map your range based off your higher time frame, and you do not look at lower time frame breaks and structures. Like let's look at this for an example very quickly, and let's leave you with a takeaway from this video. So looking at this, for example, we had this range mapped out, and we knew that we were in a higher time frame bullish range, right? So we had this range mapped out. We did not use the fact that the market broke structure. Look at this. It broke structure here on the week 4-hour. It broke structure again here on the 4-hour. It broke structure again here on the 4-hour. This, however, does not now change our bias to a bearish market, right? We are still short-term bullish on this market, even though we're at a sensitive area on the weekly chart. It's all about understanding where you are sitting in your higher time frame range. Now I know that looking in here, I'm looking for a pullback into around there, maybe even back into these highs in here, and then I'm looking to take this market lower from that point, right? And that's simply a matter of understanding the range of the higher time frame. So anyway, that's it from my side. I hope you're able to learn a lot from this video. Until next time, it has been a pleasure as always to share with you guys, and I am wishing you a blessed weekend, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next video.